have with me Mr. Ajit Gulabchand, the chairman of Hindustan Construction Company. Mr. Gulabchand, let's start with the PM's address today. What was the central message, according to you, from the PM's message this afternoon?
I think since Jawaharlal Nehru, I haven't seen any Prime Minister articulate what is the position of India in the world and what is the role it can play, and it plays. In that context, it talked about its space in the globe, on the globe, and also enforced the idea that we are not just an important player, we are also a force for the good. And not today, we have been there for millennia. And that's what he quoted some of the Sanskrit sages, etc. So fundamentally what you had was a positioning of India that we are a force for the good and we can play this role. And he then also was quite sharp in staying with the theme of the conference. And he said this kind of division that is taking place by trade barriers, immigration, all kinds of barriers that are coming up. These barriers, if we create more and more barriers and if we create more and more distances, we will never succeed. And so as all the important countries and all the players in the globe must come together to solve these problems. And this is where India also can tell you play a role from point of view that this has been our philosophy. We live in a very diverse country and we live with this very idea. And so we can think in terms of how to do things. So I thought it was very statesmanlike, a very, very elegant speech. And in terms of being able to explain to the world where India stands and what India can do. And more importantly, it's a democratic force and a force for the good. And I'll tell you why. It contrasts to what China is. Sure. China is it may be much more powerful today. It may be much more, not prosperous is not the word, richer today. But the fact is that it still is not a free country. And he emphasized that again and again, that we are not just an electoral democracy, but a democracy that is in every way. And that this, with the idea, both globalization and carrying everybody together, is a very Indian DNA. And that is one of the reasons my party's slogan is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. So I thought it was very well put.
And what did you make of his message to the Committee of Nations, where he said that international institutions are not really inclusive, they are not democratic, and they need to be. And so I think his message was, of course, to the United Nations, but to other international institutions, World Bank and stuff.
See, he did not say they are not inclusive. They are not. What he's saying, they were formed and they had vision, certain objectives about so many 70 years, 80 years ago. Yes. We need to ask ourselves, he said, are they in sync with our times? And should we not be debating and discussing that as to how to reform them to meet the challenges of today? And in which he said a good part of the world is coming into the economic world, and therefore there are huge challenges of including these people. And therefore we need to bring these aspects also into this reforming of these institutions. I think that's all he said, and I think that was well said, and it is right too. You can see Mr. Klaus Schwab's speech, not only with him, on other occasions has talked of inclusiveness. Because suddenly large countries that have been poor are being energized to become prosperous at a very short speed. And therefore, there's a likelihood that some people will be left behind. So inclusiveness has a certain importance, which is pointing out very clearly.
And my last question to you, Mr. Gulabchand, before we let you go, is that his message, the new target that he has set for India for a $5 trillion economy by 2025, where he said that not only should we shouldn't be job seekers, we should be actually job creators.
No. What he said was, we have a target of 5 trillion. Now, let's take it theoretically. Yes, 5 trillion does not happen. Yet he's setting a target whereby which that 5 trillion, if we achieve, we will become relatively prosperous, more inclusive by bringing in people in. Second is he talked about this, what did you say? There were, jobs, yeah. What he meant to say there was that obviously if there's a job created, there are people who have to do the jobs also. So those jobs he create, what he's saying is we are expanding the scope of not just creating jobs, but creating self-employment, but also creating, energizing people to start startups and do things where they will also become job givers. So in short, you solve the problem of employment by creating a job giver rather than simply creating an employment for one. That is the objective of his statement, in my opinion.
Right, Mr. Gulabchand. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was Mr. Ajit Gulabchand from the Hindustan Construction Company.